And we're live. Welcome back, Northreach, to another episode of The Chopping Block, the only Amtgard podcast that uses its aesthetic to annoy one specific person and probably horribly confuse a bunch of other people with these cryptic messages. You guys know who you are. As always, I'm your host, Hars, and with me is Ray.
Hello.
And tonight's guest is the Ravenstone Monarch, Gideon.
Greetings and salutations.
How's it going tonight, Gideon?
Oh, can't complain too much once we got the technical bugs worked out.
True enough. Yeah, as we're recording this right now, I realize this is probably going to date this a little bit, but we just got done with the first weekend of Rent Fair, and gotta tell you, the morning after that was one of the best sleeps of my life.
I can imagine. I wasn't at Rent Fair, but I had quite the day myself at work, so I feel your...
I was going to say, it's crazy at Rent Fair, because we're just, I was just walking back and forth hollering, but somehow that added up. I crashed.
You did fantastic out there, Ray. You and Nikki both.
I know, we're basically the best callers ever.
You guys really are, honestly. You guys did great.
We have the voices and the attitude for it.
Yeah, plus you guys do work well off of each other when you're doing your thing. What about you, Gideon? Have you ever gone to the Rent Fair?
Been there twice. I'm hopefully going to try and make it this coming weekend, but kind of right in the middle of my work week, so it's going to be dicey if I can pull it off.
Ooh, well, here's wishing luck. Oh, and also, now that we're on the show, I just wanted to take a minute to actually confess something to you, Gideon.
Sorry, man, I'm taken.
Oh, well, okay. Well, the other thing I wanted to confess was so I did not know you, I didn't exactly meet you the way I thought I was going to. Like, when I first met you at, I think it was TaiKaiCon, actually, and I came up to you and I said, oh, hey, long time no see, how have you been? I actually thought you were somebody else that I knew that disappeared for a while, but then I would come to find out that you were a vendor that was local to the area, and then weeks later when I found that out, I was like, that was probably an awkward meeting.
Well, I do remember that, and I remember this as well. I just kind of played it off as, oh, hey, yeah, how you been? It's been a while. Because I honestly was not sure. It's like, have I met this person before? I feel like kind of a dork now.
Oh, it's totally fine. We actually didn't meet at that point, so I think we're both good.
I get that all the time. I just go with it, too.
I actually had a moment like that at Ren Fair. When we were in line, when we gotten in, one of the guys who was in line, he was this kind of skinny looking guy. He wore a red shirt, long scraggly hair, and a fedora hat. And he had this thick Russian accent, and he goes, "Hello, friend, it's good to see you again." And he gave me this big bear hug. And I'm like, "Oh, hey, how's it been?" And he goes, "Oh, doing well, I'm doing well. I guess you guys are selling the swords in there." I'm like, "Yeah, right over there." He goes, "That's good. I lost him when I moved a few weeks ago, so I'm going to go in there and grab some." I'm like, "All right, go ahead." And I just kind of turned. I want to say it was Karina I was working with. I just turned to her and I'm like, "Who the hell was that guy?"
I think part of it comes with just being a face. So at Ren Fair, they're used to seeing us every year. And we see hundreds of people, but they only see, the however many 5-10 people that work the different shifts. So, yeah. I hope you had him pay for the swords, though. You're just like, no, go take a bunch.
Oh, no. I was just pointing him to where they sold the swords, I wasn't, handing them to him or anything.
Grand Theft sword.
I don't know. I do like that if that is true the way you're saying it, though, Ray. I do like how, that would mean that we're slowly becoming established faces in the Ren Fair. We'd be like that. We're like the unicorn or Waldo. I'm
definitely more like Waldo.
For context, people who don't go to the Alaska Ren Fair, there was a guy who usually goes there every year. He's dressed up as Waldo from the Where's Waldo books.
I have to say, have we seen Gideon? You mentioned you usually try to get out there. I think I've seen you out there before, right?
Yeah. I don't think I made it last year. The year before, I'm pretty sure I did. And I'm going to do my best to try and hit it this Sunday.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you there. I like that the Ren Fair has a different dynamic than the State Fair, for example.
It's a lot more focused on the demographic we're trying to focus on.
I think I mainly think of Ren Fair as kind of like a warm-up for something like State Fair, something that runs for, a week and a half, almost a week straight, and requires people to be in that being kind of that sales pitch mode. It's a great, you start out easy with the people that are much more amenable to your type of sales pitch, and it kind of gets you in that mode to where it's like, okay, now I can take this, adapt it, and when I have a family coming to me at the state fair, I adjust the sales that way. When it's a group of teenagers, I adjust it that way, etc. It's a good warm-up.
Yeah, I think I follow it, but I feel like the, like, of the ones that have helped us the most, like, in terms of just getting our name out there, I think the Ren Fair definitely helped us, because we'd only started doing the state fair, like, a couple of years ago.
I definitely approach it as a warm-up as well, because it's only 2 days, you know, separated by the week, like you were saying. And so it kind of gets me in gear. So when we're doing state fair and we're doing a lot more days for a lot longer with a much broader audience, you're right.
That
We've
is
already
very
kind of
true.
got everything going. That's a really great way to look at it.
Yeah, that is true. I guess I was more just kind of thinking in terms of, like, the demographics, because, like, in the Ren Fair, it's just so, like, focused on the people we try to attract, whereas, like, finding those at the state fair is substantially harder, but we also have a lot more people to sift through, so...
Well, the thing about the Ren Fair and that particular demographic is that, especially for the folks that are into that sort of thing, they probably know about us already, at least to some extent, either us or the SCA or other things out there.
Right.
So, I mean, we can only make the same pitch so many times at the same people, but it's a great exercise. It gets the names out to the new folks that come in, and like I said, it's a great warm-up activity. It's the minor leagues that preps you for the A game, which is 12 days straight of state fair stuff.
In terms of preparation and time commitment, I definitely agree that Ren Fair is a good warm-up to State Fair. Well, I guess now is probably a good time to start diving into some of these questions we got here. So, most of these are from Drake, but he asked a lot of them. So this first one he asks is, what have you done in office that you're happiest with / most proud of?
It's kind of a tough one, because I've been in a few offices now. I've served as Ravenstone's Monarch twice, and I have also jumped in as the Pro Tem Regent for Ravenstone twice. If I was to split that between the two offices, I would say as far as Regent goes, it would be really pushing for different activities for people to do. My first time around, we had some budget, and I was just, this is going to expire in a month anyway, we might as well use it, right, guys? And so we picked up a fair amount of supplies, some of which we still have, up to and including chainmail kits. So we've got chainmail kits if people want to out and learn how to get the basics of that down, so that when they move on to actual steel rings, they have a bit of a primer.
Okay.
So you're who I need to hit up to make chainmail armor.
For that, I would actually direct you to Ravenstone's Lord Paragon Yevel, as he has done a lot of chainmail work. I know the basics of it. I unfortunately do not usually have the coordination for it. My chainmail that I personally own, I ended up just going the easy route and clicking buy on Amazon.
Yeah, I tried doing my share of chainmailing before, and my hands got the tremors about a half hour into it.
But to get back to the earlier question, if I was going to go back to the thing I'm most happy with on the Monarch side, I can't really nail it down to one particular thing, but my first reign, which would be about this time last year, was winding down. When I came in, Ravenstone had gone through a rough spot, and there had been some folks banned from park, from Northreach, including some officers, and it was just a rough time. There was a residuals of different factions and such, and I just came in, and it's like, okay, I did not have a pig on any of these farms. Don't care what your drama was. We're just going to get back to a routine. We're going to hit with foam. If you have issues, leave them at home. We're here to have fun. And I'd like to think that it was a lot more open, accepting, with a lot less drama when I left than when I came in.
I can absolutely agree to that. Like, just, if you were to tell somebody about what happened in the reign before you had joined, I don't think too many people would have believed you that wasn't there to see it themselves. If that's any sort of indication of like how like far you guys have gone from there since then.
And really, I like what you had to say. I mean, Amtgard really is about, you know, getting out there on the field, swinging foam, and just having fun. Like, that's, as a community, like, everything that we work on, everything we work towards is a really good community that supports teamwork and supports good sportsmanship and supports, you know, the arts and sciences and all of that. It's really great that that's, like, your focus and your goal and what you focused on.
I agree, and also to sort of paraphrase the words of another great Amtgarder that we had up here that sadly isn't anymore because of work, Talon, is that really if you are here to swing stick, then that will not and should not change, because the rules of play will always exist, and as long as you've got 3 people that want to do Amtgard, you can do Amtgard.
I'd probably hazard a guess that most of us were doing it before we ever even knew what Amped was, too.
Probably. Except for when I was a kid, it was actual sticks we were using.
Right. Actual sticks, like staves, plastic swords, metal swords, anything we could get our hands on. I mean, we definitely made our fair share of PVC and foam weapons, not by any kind of Amtgard regulation.
Oh, absolutely not.
I think I know one person that made a giant keyblade and fought with it.
As a matter of fact, Ray, this might be the same person we know, because I know somebody who did that too.
Thank goodness for Amtgard keeping us safe.
Keeping us safe one failed weapon at a time.
For all those kids at home, weapon regulations are there for a reason. It's to keep us safe. Okay, so I guess the next question we have is, aside from Ravenstone, can't choose your own park because that would be unfair, what's your favorite park? And obviously, you know, aside from all the other parks except for Lupin. No, I'm kidding. Aside from Ravenstone, what is your favorite park? And maybe why? Like, what do you enjoy most about that park? Like, what is something they do well?
See,
okay, this is gonna be an incredibly tough one for me, because if anybody was to look at my orc entry, they would see that I've never actually been to another park. The other ones that run on Sundays are down in Kenai. I believe I don't remember if Fairbanks does theirs on Sunday as well. But my Saturdays are always taken by work. I get maybe 1 or 2 Saturdays off. And it's usually a miracle when that happens. So I can't say that I've ever physically attended any other regular park days for Northreach. But as far as like parks that I most want to visit, just because of what's seen coming out of them, I would definitely say that Icefire Bay is at the very top list. As much as I love everybody in Anchorage and the folks I met down in Frozen Coast for Dungeon Crawl and the folks that I see from Fairbanks, I really appreciate and admire the amount of role play and enthusiasm for role play that I see coming out of the park out of Homer.
Yeah, I've heard some really good stuff about Icefire Bay's questing, so honestly, I don't blame you. I've been meaning to go back down there again sometime too.
That is some really great input, too. I haven't actually been to Homer yet. Like, that's one of the parks I haven't been to.
Oh, you would love it, Ray. It's awesome.
I mean, I love all the people from there, so I'm sure I would.
Although, one thing I did want to add, Gideon, is it doesn't specify what park in Northreach was your favorite, because I remember you did say you checked out the park in Hawaii, right?
I did check out, there was a park in Hawaii. I was actually on the same island I was on when I went on vacation a while back. Unfortunately, it was on the other side of the island, and the way that the timing worked out was we backed the rental car the day before that park day, so I really did not have the option. I did actually get down in February to visit Emerald Glades down right out of Cleveland, Ohio, and I got to swing foam with those guys. And it's small park, fire size, but definitely some awesome people. They had some really, really cool fighters. and I would love to actually go bug those guys again sometime.
That sounds cool.
Just as an aside, when you travel, how do you find the other parks? Because I know when I first had joined Northreach and I went to North Carolina, I thought, oh man, I'll go to, one of the Amtgard parks there while I'm there for the next, 2 months. And I was never able to get a hold of anybody or figure out where there would be regular meetups. Is there do you just go through Facebook, or is there, some other insight you have to maybe people who are traveling or in other areas that might be looking for a park?
Well, first off, I cheat. I just put the nearest large city that I'm at and the word Amtgard into Google and see what pops up. I believe the Amtgard actually has a pretty decent database as well. Once I find where they are roughly, when they meet and such, I will try and hunt them down on Facebook and get the fine details, verify if they're still meeting at that place, and see if I can sucker somebody into giving me a ride out.
Nice. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the other questions. I just figured that was a good tag on to the other question about parks, because it seemed like you had found several. So.
Well, our next one we got on our list is what is the award that you've received? What reward you've received is your favorite?
Well, there's a kind of a funny story with some of those actually. Due to some orc errors, some awards not getting entered, I actually have in my possession 3 third orders of the rose, which I really get a personal kick out of. It's since been gone. We've since gone back and that's been, fixed and plugged in the right spots, but really get a kick out of that. At this point, I'm just coming out to swing foam and have fun with people and some crafts and stuff. So if they want to give me awards, I'm not going to argue with it, but I'm really not trying to farm any particular one.
That might make this next question we have a little tough then, huh?
Well, hit me with it anyways.
So, I guess, the first one was about the awards, so the next one is sort of a tag on to that. If you could be any sort of knight, which would it be? So if you're not trying to farm any specific award for knighthood, what are you going for? Sword knight? Is that...
I'd have to really be a good fighter to snag sword knight.
Everybody has to start somewhere.
No. I believe it's was it serpent for craft?
Yeah.
I think that'd probably be my if I was to realistically get to knights anytime within the next 5 years, it would probably be somewhere along those lines, something on the serpent side, because I know Knight of the Crown, especially Northreach, requires office at the kingdom level, and with the way my job is, I can't commit to that, so that one's out. Flame is just, I would have to cooperate with a lot of pull, and I'm much more a go it myself and get in kind of person. Sword Knight we already covered, and so that leaves me with Serpent, and it conveniently plays into my love for crafting stuff. So I think if it was going to be any of those, it'd probably be Serpent.
We could always use you as our first.
Yeah, we still need to work on getting different knights for the different ones out there right now, right? So what knights do we have? We have 3 or 4?
I believe we have 3. We have Goran and Hadalin are both Knights of the Crown, and I believe Estriana is the Knight of the Flame.
And if we manage to convince a sword knight to come up here, I guess they wouldn't be our sword knight.
Exactly, yeah.
We could claim them.
I wouldn't say no. I'd be up for it.
I keep trying to post, hey, Alaska's beautiful. You guys should just all move up here. It does help, I think, when you have a sword knight already established that, has the fighting thing down. They have a lot of, a lot of input and skills and just things they can teach, and it's nice to have access to that on a regular basis as opposed to only getting to see a sword knight every so often. There was a really great discussion about that got started on Facebook. Did you see that post where it was, hey, how do we get a sword knight up here? How do I improve my fighting? Because that's one of the biggest challenges up here. Yeah, it was a great discussion.
Yeah, until Grim stopped coming up here, I would have said he would have been a good candidate for being a future Sword Knight.
Yeah, he's an excellent fighter. But we also need the serpent as well. We have to get all our great crafters together. Get Gideon and Yevil and get Deli and get Corin and just everybody who's been like putting out really great stuff. Like Mara.
Absolutely.
Just everybody. Like, et cetera, et cetera. I can't list enough names. Like, just get everybody together in, like, one giant ANS event, like, once a year or something.
I agree. We have some really solid crafters up here. I'd say we're just getting closer and closer to that Serpent Knight for somebody. Alright, well, sort of backpedaling from that a little bit. So what is the coolest, or maybe this could kind of tie into it, but what is the coolest thing you've ever seen in Amtgard? And it's kind of broad, so it could be anything from, like, a crafting item to an event or something.
All right, so I'm pretty sure I got one for each of those little subcategories, so we'll just kind of go down the list.
Go ahead.
My first dungeon call, which was not this past year, but the year before that, we're down in Kenai. That was a really awesome event. I mean, there was just the dungeon itself was cool, the whole spider theme to it, everything like that. That was a great day. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I've seen some really cool crafting stuff come out. I can't really list anything specific off the top of my head, but it's more people where I'm always excited to see the next thing that they've got coming out of their workshop. We've actually got some really, really awesome crafts in Ravenstone. We've got a couple of people doing weapons. We've got a couple of people doing garb. We've got a whole bunch of people that are just ready to help wherever needed, and I really appreciate that. That's something I love to see. We had out a call last week to help the Engineers Guild finish up a bunch of swords for Ren Fair, and whereas our ANS has usually been a little on the small side lately, this was just like we had regular members coming out. We had the parents of some of them coming out. We had people visiting from other parks coming to the ANS session. So that was really cool to see. Everybody coming together for that common goal.
Yeah, I noticed you guys have been getting sort of a spike up in your ANS attendance lately.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I hope get going with my run for Regent this next reign.
That's cool. Well, do you have anything you'd like to announce publicly to your populace about what your plans are?
Well, as far as the Office of Regent goes, it's one of those that's a little odd. It's not well defined in its scope compared to some of the other offices out there. Part of it is the ANS is your area. You handle Moraine, and essentially you're there as a vice president. You're there in case the current monarch keels over and dies.
Pretty much.
What I'd like to Well, what I'd like to do is, bring a little bit more definition, kind of set a new standard for it. I'd say that my personal goals as a regent is to kind of alleviate what I can from the monarch and make their job easier. Kind of act buffer. If somebody has a problem, bring it to the regent. If the regent can't solve it, they take it to the monarch. I think that another focus should be, a lot of people are pushing for recruitment, but I think that recruitment without attention towards retention is just going to see a high turnover. So I think that should be part of the regent's job. Is the monarch focuses on recruitment, brings people into the park. The regent makes sure they stay there. And it's like, hey, you've been here so long. Here, let me help you get some garb. Here, let me help you get a sword. Hey, you didn't like that class? Okay, let's get you set up with this one. Really help to keep the members we have, boost them up, get them to be regular members, get their dues paid, get them Reeve certified, take them to the GMR, say, hey, this guy's got a good idea for the rules, let's keep it going. And the last part is, of course, NS, Arts and Sciences, because it's one of those things that's actually more important to some folks that I know than the fighting in games themselves. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll go out there and play games, but check out this thing that I'm working on. And it's like, that's awesome. And I've just seen, I think that we could pay a lot more attention than we currently are to how ANSs are run, get them consistent, get them creative, get a lot more involvement with members.
Sounds like the Regent's seat's in good hands then.
I feel like this one might be a joke. It's, why is your GMR so awesome?
See, I thought it was too until I realized that Drake was the champion.
Well, I will give my current GMR a bit of a plug. He is really pushed to get everybody he can Reeve certified. Essentially, if you're out there for more than a month, he starts approaching you and say, "Hey, you want to take the Reeves test?" I remember the first couple of months, I had kind of given them directive. It's like, okay, start bugging people. You have, your Monarch's permission to be annoying until they take a Reeves test. And he just jumped into it with gusto, and we've got a really, really good Reeves pool because of that. And I also like how tenacious he can be when it comes to rule stuff. I see him on the clarifications page quite a bit, so that's pretty nice. Not always right, but I like the attitude.
He's still kind of green. You can't always be right. Well, I think that's about all we have for the given questions. So, Ray, unless you got anything else to add.
I was going to ask, what got you into Amtgard to begin with? When did you find out about it? Sort of what was the thing about it that drew you in, etc., etc.?
Okay, that's a bit of an interesting story. For anybody that doesn't know, my day job is operating a local card game and comic shop out here in the Matsu Valley. And I had a couple of the local Ravenstone folks come in, and they would be doing their own thing, with games and such, but they would be talking about stuff here and there. And I had someone ask if they could put up a flyer in the shop. It was like, yeah, sure, it sounds cool. And then I ended up finding myself with nothing to do on a Sunday afternoon, and remember that, hey, it's about a quarter mile away from the house, and I got nothing better to do. Let's go over there and see, exactly what this group is, how many people there are, and how my business can money off of them. So, truth be told, I kind of went over first as, with kind of a business thing in mind, because it's a whole, it's a homegrown group of exactly the people that I want in the store. So, why not try and go over there and see if I could introduce myself, make a pitch, and see if we could help each other out. And essentially, right when I must have caught Ravenstone on a really good day, because they had probably about 30 people out, and they were all in really cool garb, and I saw some pretty acrobatic fighting going on. And it's all right, this is actually pretty cool. I might actually give this a shot. And probably about 15 minutes later, one of the folks that recognized me from the store said, "Oh, hey, you came out!" And 5 minutes later, I had a shield and a sword in my hand. So that was pretty much it. You get me in. Maybe 2 to 3 weeks later, I was coming out regularly, and it was pretty awesome. It's been great ever since.
That's actually a great story. I'm always surprised. So I'm always surprised at how people discovered Amtgard. But it sounds like you knew people from your shop that were there, but in general, it wasn't anybody that brought you out. You took the initiative, you went out and fought for the first time, basically amidst a bunch of new people, right?
There was a few faces I know. Jesse, also known as Abstract, who was active in Ravenstone at the time. He's since moved on to other things. And then Oz Keller was one of the shop regulars. And a bit of a guilty confession. I kind of joined in so I could work out some aggression and anger on him. Yeah, all right, buddy. How many of these cards do you want me to look up the prices for? Oh, you're going to get it on Sunday.
That's fantastic.
You drank too deep from the goblet of capitalism.
Oh, that's awesome. So I had another question, because you were talking about how you really love the roleplay aspects you hear that come out of Icefire Bay. If you were to implement roleplay or sort of kind of help drive that machine, what are some ideas that you have for that? Or things that you've thought about, that you've heard, that you really liked, or that you've enjoyed? Just sort of brainstorming here, like what have you heard of, or what ideas have you had that you wished you would see more of, or what things, you know, could you foresee doing in the future in some sort of leadership position?
So I also come from a background of I've run a long going D&D game for about 10 years now. So I'm no stranger to like world building and stuff like that. Essentially, if I was to implement like if I was to, you know, try and promote more heavy role play, and this is nothing personal to, you know, anyone who has been working their butts off in the Star Wars themes or the other some of the other themes we've had, but I would never, ever, ever use an established IP for my Rain theme. There are way too many, you know, creative people out here for us to try and do like we're going to do Harry Potter. It's like, no, guys, come on. We've got a lot of talented people to make up our own. During the first reign I had as Monarch, I actually did since there wasn't a Kingdom Reign theme, we kind of did our own, and it was something that I just cooked up based off of one of my old D&D games, and it seemed to be really well received. So if I was going to promote roleplay, I would be promoting participation of the members. You know, you've got a cool idea for a quest, okay, bring it to me, we'll try to work it in. You've got a really cool, you know, storyline with a whole bunch of factions, awesome, bring it to me, we'll try to work it in. The more you can say yes to people and try and work their ideas in, the more that encourages them to not only bring you, you know, more and better stuff in the future, but also helps them to kind of relax, because if it's their own quest, they kind of sink a little bit more into it, and I think that's really awesome.
And there's definitely, are you in the forums at all? Because just to kind of add on to that, there's definitely a lot of RP that goes on in the forums for people that have been building their characters for a while too, to draw off of. There's some interesting stories there. I like going through the RP forum that we have for Northreach sometimes and reading it. I was just wondering if you'd been in there at all.
I have every once in a while. Really, I don't frequent the forums as often as I probably should. The first couple times I went in there, I saw there was maybe 2 active threads, and everything else had been inactive for, you know, 2+ years. So I kind of considered it to just be kind of a dead area.
I was about to say, it's okay, nobody else does either.
Okay. No way. Like, so people post every so often, and you're right, oftentimes there's only, like, even the active threads maybe were active, you know, several months ago. There's always neat little, like, story snippets. I feel like there were certain people in Amtgard that I got to know their characters before I ever got to know them. And I got to know their characters because they were active and had posted, like, little one-shot stories about their characters, or just, like, little things here and there. I think the difficulty with the forum is people can't easily get updates and update. You know what I mean? Like, they can't reply to what has been said quickly and easily, so the roleplay doesn't, like, eventually somebody just kind of trails off and doesn't reply when it would be needed to continue an active roleplay between people. But it is interesting for the stories. Like, I think Vex's character and Dominique's character, and we're friends outside of Amtgard now, but they were posting, like, little snippets about their characters, and I kind of interacted with them. And same with Hars. Hars, you were, like,
yeah.
I think I met you through the forums. I mean, I met you obviously in person at Amtgard, but I met Hars through the forums first before I ever started talking to you one-on-one. So it's interesting. I like the little story snippets that people post for their different characters. It would be neat if everybody had their story posted up in the forums. So going along with that, with some of the things that you've done, would you say that more questing would be better as well in terms of promoting sort of the RP aspect of Amtgard?
I'd say that'd be conditional, because right now we're in summer. although we're moving towards fall. And I found that it's usually a little bit more difficult to do the questing style stuff if you're inside in a gym, especially because you've got a smaller space and you've usually got more time constraints than just being out at a park. I would like to see like more quest themed stuff. I would like to see more that factoring into like a regular day's battle games. But doing like dedicated questing week to week, it would be difficult to pull off, but not impossible. The thing if I was to do it, what I would probably end up wanting to do is to before we even start day one, I've got the first 3 months of it done. So if Team A wins Game A, we go to we go down this fork of now it's going to be this scenario with this advantage, etc. And just do that, for about, 12 to 16 different parks. So you've got over half of your stuff done day one. I mean, you can adjust fly, but you're not trying to build it from the ground up already when you're supposed to be starting.
Right.
Well, I'd be interested to see how you implement some of your ideas going into the future for quest days and RP. So, and it sounds like you have a lot of experience with that. So thank you for answering my questions about that. I was just curious. I've only done a few questing events aside from running the Assassin's game, which has its own sort of RP elements, but nothing as prolonged as, like questing teams or anything. So it sounds pretty interesting and I look forward to it.
I just wanted to say now I do appreciate you sort of hijacking the second half of the show because I kind of don't really have the sort of questions I'm floating around through my head the way you do.
No, I want to see Gideon run questing stuff. Like, you need to pre-plan next summer, run for office, do your thing, get some of that quest stuff going at Ravenstone, so it's not quite the drive from Anchorage.
I can dig it. It's all about planning ahead.
I would definitely go out there for that on any days that I could.
Same.
Well, not to spoil too much, but there will probably be a certain document entered into Crown Calls that might contain exactly that sort of thing. So, once there's a score on that particular document, I plan on just kind of releasing it into the public view.
Into the ether.
All right. Well, in that case, I think this is going to be where we pull the plug on our episode. So I just wanted to thank everybody who's been watching up to this point, and thank you, Gideon, for being a guest on our show.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Tune in next episode where we'll be interviewing the Kingdom GMR, Richter. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next episode. I'm Hars, this is Ray, and you've been watching The Chopping Block. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.